The federal tax and spending bill, which Republicans passed last year, will cut $8 billion from hospital coffers. Several 100,000 New Yorkers are expected to lose health insurance because of that law.
When they lose insurance doesn't mean they don't get sick. And when they do get sick, we still take care of them. That becomes uncompensated care.
And uncompensated care is eventually covered by taxpayers.
Is $11.99 in the House?
Governor Hochul rallied with Rasky and unionized healthcare workers. She blasted the federal changes and says she's committed to protecting healthcare jobs.
That is a fight I'll join all of you with any day, anytime, anywhere. But also, I have confidence that this budget will deliver the relief you need, that healthcare workers need, that our patients need.
Hochul's aides say they'll work with lawmakers to divvy up her proposed funding increase. Assemblymember Kerry Warner says nursing homes are a key part of the system. Without them, patients can get stuck in hospitals even when they're well enough to leave. And that's even more expensive.
Making sure that there is a path when somebody is ready to be discharged into a nursing home means that hospital isn't going to experience the uncompensated care. And uncompensated care, by the way, just ricochets back on all of us.
State budget talks are continuing until the March 31st deadline. Jimmy Vielkind, WNYC News.
It's WNYC. Coming up in just a moment, it's Marketplace. On the show tonight, hotter and drier summers are forcing Oregon's Pinot Noir industry to branch out.
A lot of those grapes would have been just about unthinkable 20 years ago, like Cabernet Franc, Chenin Blanc. But we're getting them ripe now because things are getting warmer.
We're going to have that story and more next on Marketplace. We'll be back with all things considered at 7 o'clock. Speaking of warmer, we're hitting a bit of a warming trend here. It's 43 degrees right now in Lower Manhattan. We're going to see lows in the upper 30s overnight tonight. For tomorrow here in our area, highs reaching the mid-50s by the afternoon, falling into the low 40s for tomorrow night. WNYC at 6:30.
WNYC is supported by Roundabout Theater. Rose Byrne and Kelly O'Hara return to Broadway this Friday in Fallen Angels, Noel Coward's comedy of friendship, secrets, and a little too much champagne, directed by Scott Ellis. Tickets at roundabouttheater.org.
WNYC. Independent journalism in the public interest. 93.9 FM and AM 820. NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Marketplace is supported by BMC. BMC helps customers automate, manage, and optimize their complex IT environments. Learn more at bmc.com.
On the program today, a vote for making finance boring again. We'll do some commodities and then wine. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Sendoso. Sendoso helps teams launch gifting and direct mail programs at scale to connect with customers and prospects in a personalized and human way. More information is available at sendoso.com. And by Mercury, a banking platform that now provides access to personal accounts with high-yield savings, unlimited wires, and more. Mercury is not a bank. Learn more at mercury.com/personal. Mercury, radically different banking. And by Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks delivers comprehensive cybersecurity protection while automating cyber defense to stop threats so organizations can thrive. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Rizdal. It is Tuesday, today the 24th day of March. Good as always to have you along, everybody. We're going to begin today not with the war, not with equities, not with oil or supply chains, but with a slice of the financial markets that is beginning to become just a little bit unglued. Ever since the financial crisis going on 20 years ago now, if you can believe that, investors have been pouring money into what's known as private credit, nearly $2 trillion worth, money that gets loaned out to businesses that were unlikely, shall we say, to be able to get loans from actual banks. Those investors, though, have been getting jittery, worried by some high-profile defaults and the future prospects of, getting their money back. So a lot of them have started pulling money out of private credit. Bank run is a little bit strong here, but not by much. Marketplace's Henry Epp gets us going.
Private credit has gotten as big as it has because of the financial crisis. Banks had lost a lot of money on loans, and Washington had imposed new lending regulations, says Kent Belasco at Marquette University.
That caused banks to become, much more risk averse, and so therefore became a little harder to get credit.
Especially for mid-sized companies. At the same time, investors were looking to put their money into funds that got a decent yield, says Amir Sufi, a professor of finance at Chicago Booth. Private credit gave them that.
From about 2010 to about 2024, the returns on private credit were truly impressive.
8 to 10%, Sufi says, and the borrowers didn't default much. But the good vibes have changed lately. Private credit firms made a ton of loans around 2021 and 22, Sufi says, when interest rates were low. They're higher now, and a lot of those 5-year-old loans are coming due soon.
And when debt comes due and the interest rate required to roll over the debt is much higher, then the borrowers are much more likely to default on the payment.
Private credit firms have also done a ton of lending to software companies, and investors are worried that AI is coming for them. But it's hard to know exactly what's going on at private credit firms, says Lenore Palladino at UMass Amherst, because they don't have to follow the same rules as traditional banks.
They're making a lot of loans, but without needing to disclose what is happening with the loans. They don't necessarily have any reserves in case the loans go south, in case they're not paid back. And they aren't required to disclose or be supervised by federal regulators.
All of this uncertainty in private credit at a very uncertain time in the economy has investors trying to get their money out.
We always have moments where all of a sudden, if there's fear, then everyone will try to get out and, be safe with their assets, be safe with their money.
The thing is, a lot of private credit funds can limit how much investors can withdraw at any one time. And right now, a lot of them are throwing up those gates. I'm Henry Epp for Marketplace.
Wall Street on this Tuesday. The war wasn't front and center in markets, nor, though, was it far from top of mind. We will have the details when we do the numbers. The program today, it seems, is loosely organized around the theme of things to keep an eye on. Henry did private credit for us just a second ago. The Bureau of Labor Statistics brings us our next item, its update on worker productivity during the fourth quarter of last year.
So Paul Krugman has this quote where he says, productivity isn't everything, but in the long run, it's almost everything. It's really the primary way by which we improve living standards over time.
That's Erica McIntarfer, now a policy fellow at the Stanford Institute for Economic Research. And until she was fired by President Trump after he lied and said she'd manipulated the jobs numbers, she was the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Fourth quarter productivity was revised down. Productivity growth, to be clear. It was revised down by a lot, from 2.8% to 1.8%. But the trend is still pretty good.
One important thing to think about is that even after these revisions, the U.S. has been on a very good productivity run with a growth of 2%, 3%, and 2.2% over the last 3 years, which puts us on pace with some of the strongest decades in American post-war history in terms of GDP growth.
That was Seth Benzel, an assistant professor of business and economics at Chapman University.
And this was entirely driven by downward revisions to output, so not completely unexpected.
Erica McIntarfer, one more time.
and hours remained unchanged. And this revision did also push unit labor costs higher. That means that businesses are paying more per unit of output. And that's important because unit labor costs is a potential inflationary measure that the Fed does watch very closely.
Ah, yes, the Fed.
The thing that economists and people who try to make policy about the economy really want is productivity growth. Productivity is amazing because you can use it on anything.
So?
The Fed is in a very difficult spot right now with a softening labor market and both tariffs and oil price shocks pushing up on inflation. So output being solid is good news for the economy, and that tends to also be an input into the Fed's decision.
Your obligatory reminder here that this is productivity growth for Q4 last year. The interesting update is going to be what we're going to see for this quarter, given the war and all. One of the economic through lines of the war in the Middle East has been commodities and the spiking prices thereof. We have covered, in turn, the rising costs of oil and fertilizer and helium. But there is an exception that proves the rule always, and copper is ours today. Copper's been sliding since the start of the year, hitting a low for the year over the weekend. Daniel Ackerman checked in on the market for the world's electrical conductor of choice.
Atomic number 29 has a nickname in financial circles.
Copper is traditionally known as Dr. Copper.
Natalie Scott Gray, senior metals analyst at StoneX, says that's because the metal is used in so many economic activities, from transport to construction to electricity.
It's a good barometer, basically, for macroeconomic health.
High copper prices tend to reflect optimism about future economic growth. And heading into this year, Dr. Copper's prognosis was pretty good, says Morgan Bazilian, a professor of public policy at the Colorado School of Mines.
The copper market has done terrifically, right? It's gone up and up and up, and it reached almost record highs as recently as late January of 2026.
But prices have fallen in the past few weeks, thanks in large part to the war in Iran, says Chris Berry, president of House Mountain Partners.
Investors are worried about demand destruction due to an energy shock. The longer the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, the greater the likelihood of a recession and slower economic activity.
Plus, Berry says new concerns over inflation mean the Federal Reserve and other central banks are less likely to cut interest rates this year.
And of course, higher interest rates lead to slower growth, which is another reason why I think you see a lid on the price of copper currently.
Even though the market has been down, it's unlikely to collapse anytime soon, says Albert McKenzie, a copper analyst with Benchmark Mineral Intelligence. He says in the long term,
if you look at most companies' forecasts, including our own, you see that demand growth is growing significantly.
He says that's because global population is increasing and becoming wealthier.
And the world is more electrified than it's ever been.
And with the war roiling the oil market, that trend is likely to continue. I'm Daniel Ackerman for Marketplace.
A lot of the conversation around shipping of late, by which I mean really the past 25 days, has been focused outside our borders, which does make some degree of sense. But maritime transport matters domestically, too. So we have called Austin Golding. He's the president and CEO of Golding Barge Lines in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Austin, good to talk to you again.
Great to talk to you, Kai.
The first question first, as you know by now, how's business?
Well, business has been steady over the last year. Lately, around this spike in oil price, we've seen a lot of demand for barging here really come on in the last couple of weeks. But over the last year, it's been pretty steady.
Yeah, say more about the last couple of weeks and demand for, the bulk transport that you guys do.
Whether the price of oil is going up or down, volatility brings barges into the equation. We can show up in a lot of different places and carry product to a lot of very strategic places that there might not be pipeline or rail access, definitely not enough capacity on the highways to serve. So barges come in to try to play as big a role as they can.
Does the price volatility, the fact that, oil is up and gas is up and all of that, does that affect how much money you're making?
No, it doesn't. I don't get to trade on the value of the product in the barge, just the value of my time and how bad they need me.
Gotcha. Fair enough. I wanted to ask you about this waiver of the Jones Act that the president signed the other day. Jones Act, of course, says transportation between two U.S. ports has to be by American crewed and American-made vessels. Since you're the guy in shipping that I know, what do you make of that?
Well, I'm highly, highly skeptical that the Jones Act waiver is going to have much of an impact at the pump or for the American consumer. If the Jones Act didn't exist, first people that would get hit would be the shipbuilders in America, because all these vessels would be built internationally, or a lot of them would. And then the mariner would be the next person that took a hit after their job was replaced for a cheaper option and offshore somewhere else. I think this is a situation where the impact of the waiver has been highly overstated.
This waiver is 60 days. It's more structured, I think, than past waivers have been. What do you think it's going to mean sort of in the longer-ish term, the longer this war goes on?
I think there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had around our supply chain in this country. I agree completely that shipbuilding is way behind here, but there's other ways to help initiate more shipbuilding than just waiving the Jones Act. I think you'd see investment really start to coalesce around shipbuilding if there was more guaranteed for long-term investment. The hidden devil in these details is we don't really have enough mariners now. So if we mass produce a lot of ships in short order for a demand that really might not be there and a mariner that might not be there, we can cause another problem. So I'm all for increasing shipbuilding. I'm all for bolstering our ability to do that. I just really question if the Jones Act is the right first step towards that goal.
A related but slightly different question. This is now geopolitics reaching down, like at the very highest level, like at the levels of war, right? Reaching down into a guy running a family business in Vicksburg, Mississippi. How often does that happen to you?
Well, being at the core of the energy supply chain for a lot of these major oil companies, geopolitics is one of probably our top 5 factors when it comes to evaluating our long-term business. We react to the oil markets and to demand, just like you and I seem to always talk whenever we have a flood or a drought. Kai. We're at the center of a very large supply chain, and we're at the very top of the supply chain. After we touch it, it moves into smaller modes, smaller vessels, smaller communities. So geopolitics, when it comes towards small percentage changes in supply or large changes in our supply chain, it impacts us just because of where we are in that stratification of supply.
Yeah, the longer this goes on, I imagine the bigger impact it has on you, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think uncertainty is not great for us.
Yeah.
I like to have certainty, consistency. Spikes, valleys, they're much harder to manage through than a consistent, ratable business.
Yeah, you are not the first person to tell me that. Austin Golding at Golding Barge Lines down in Vicksburg. Austin, thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you, Kai.
Coming up.
They'll essentially scorch from the sunburn and they'll turn into a raisin.
Well, that's not good. But first, sure, why not? Let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's off 84 points today, just under 0.2%, 46,124 for the blue chips. The Nasdaq sank 184 points, 0.8%, 21,761. The S&P 500 down 24 points. Thanks for asking. 0.4%, 65 and 56. Dan Ackerman was talking about copper. How about some copper miners and processors? BHP Group, which operates several mines in South America, shined up 0.8%. BHP also owns an Arizona mine with Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto up 1.1% today. Freeport-McMoRan which produces gold in addition to copper, increased 2.8%. We could have done gold today, too, and commodities that have fallen in price, down quite a chunk. Packaged meats and pork producer Smithfield reported earnings today that beat expectations. Fourth quarter net income increased to 83 cents a share. Analysts had expected 68 cents a share. The company's CEO cited pork's prominent standing in Latin and Asian cuisines popular with consumers. Also, Smithfield brought home the bacon to the tune of 4.25%. Bond prices down. Yield on the 10-year T-note, it rose 4.38%. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Odoo.com, your entire business on one platform. Marketplace is supported by Bison Managed 401k, a service where advisors actively manage 401k accounts to help individuals meet retirement goals. The Bison Calculator is available at powermy401k.com. And by the University of Illinois' Geese College of Business, providing a fully online MBA degree that encourages learners to apply what they learn in real time without having to put their career on hold. OnlineMBA.illinois.edu. And by Amazon Business, dedicated to helping businesses save time on office tasks and empower leaders with business buying solutions that support teams to focus on growing the business. Learn about smart business buying at AmazonBusiness.com.
WNYC is built on listener support. Your donation supports reporting from the WNYC Newsroom, NPR, and the BBC. Keeping you informed and connected to events in your community and the world is our commitment to you. Please commit to us with your financial contribution today by becoming a member now. Visit WNYC.org and click on Donate.
WNYC is supported by the Joyce Theater presenting Hubbard Street Dance Chicago. The company returns for 2 weeks with works by Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon, Nacho Duato, and more. Now through April 5th. Tickets at joyce.org.
You're listening to Marketplace on WNYC. Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour of All Things Considered, farmers are feeling the economic pain of several of President Trump's policy choices, from tariffs to the war in Iran. We'll have that and more at 7. Stay tuned.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. We, the American consuming public, have some expectations, among which increasingly is being able to get whatever we want on our doorsteps as soon as we want. Amazon and Walmart and Target are on board, offering ever speedier delivery. And now FedEx is trying to get a slice of that action. FedEx Same Day Local is its new offering. Companies to consumers only so far. That's B2C in the lingo. Marketplace's Carla Javier unpacks our expectations for getting things sooner and sooner and how that whole thing works, too.
FedEx used to offer same-day delivery services, says Bruce Chan, a senior equity analyst at Stifel.
The company made a strategic decision to pivot away from broader-based same-day option for its customers that it primarily used its own capacity to service and address.
Stifel has an unrelated investment banking relationship with FedEx. Chan says FedEx largely exited the same-day market back in 2023, except for select items like temperature-controlled pharmaceuticals. Now the company is offering local same-day service again, this time by partnering with another company, OneRail. Chan says this allows FedEx to reduce risks.
They are not using, their own owned trucks and employees.
Nowadays, customers might decide to go with another company if they find out delivery might take a few days, says Prakash Mirchandani at the University of Pittsburgh.
Because of what Amazon has been doing, what Walmart and Target have been offering, that those expectations have gone up.
Those are retailers Arun Sundaram at CFRA Research follows. He says to deliver for their customers, so to speak, they outsource their last mile services to third parties too.
They're able to increase delivery speeds to more cities. They're able to reduce costs.
To pay for it all, Sundaram says, those retailers offering fast delivery can lean on subscription fees and advertising revenue. As for the new FedEx service, spokesperson Jason Brenner says customers will see it as an option when checking out an order with a participating retailer.
You can get it delivered in 3 to 5 days. You can get it delivered priority.
Or you can get it delivered via FedEx today between 4 and 6 p.m. As for how much it'll cost, Brenner says,
we're not in the business of telling our customers, the retailers, what to charge their customers for shipping, but we will have a very competitive rate card.
And retailers, he says, will use that to decide what to charge for same-day delivery. I'm Carla Javier for Marketplace.
California wines get the lion's share of the attention, looking at you, Napa and Sonoma counties. But one ignores other states at one's viticultural peril. Washington State, New York, and for us today, Oregon. Wine is worth $8.5 billion to Oregon's economy, data courtesy of the Oregon Wine Board. But grapes are a fickle fruit, and climate change is doing damage to the historically cool climate in Oregon's key growing areas. Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman took a trip out to wine country to find out how wineries are trying to stay profitable in the face of rising temperatures.
I start in one of the Willamette Valley's most favored wine-growing regions, the Eola Amity Hills AVA, or American Viticultural Area, about an hour south of Portland. I pull up to Bjornson Vineyard on a cool, rainy morning, and vineyard owner Mark Bjornson insists we start in the tasting room to get a little warmth into our blood.
We'll pour you some Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is the flagship grape of the Willamette Valley. Now you'll taste why. That's so good.
Next, we head out to the vineyard, 107 acres of trellised vines marching across rolling hills that mostly face south and west for the warm summer sun.
We grow 14 different varieties of grapes. A lot of those grapes would have been just about unthinkable 20 years ago, like Cabernet Franc, Chenin Blanc, but we're getting them ripe now because things are getting warmer.
Things are getting a lot warmer.
In the last 5 years, we've had 3 years of climate scares.
David Pott at Sunbreak Wines produces Pinot, Chardonnay, sparkling cider, and vermouth with grapes from Bjornson's vines.
2020, we saw the wildfires in the Cascades that brought smoke into the valley. And I personally made some red wine that year. It didn't turn out very well. Had a kind of an ashy aftertaste.
Most winemakers had to throw theirs out. Another growing threat, extreme heat events, says Greg Jones, owner of Abasella Winery in southern Oregon's Umpqua Valley, who started his career as a climatologist.
The heat dome in 2021, 118 degrees in my vineyard, 126 up in British Columbia.
Under that strain, the grapes?
They'll essentially scorch from the sunburn, and they'll turn into a raisin.
At Oregon State University's Climate Change Research Institute, Professor Erica Fleischman has been tracking the growing environmental disruptions.
Many of the extremes are not something that the agricultural industry in this region has experienced over the past 100 years or so. So we are getting longer heat waves, hotter heat waves, more frequent heat waves.
But there's a big caveat here. Up until now, warmer average temperatures in summer and fall have mostly helped grape growers.
In some cases, climate change may benefit the wine industry. Historically, temperature here was a little bit too cool. And so up to a point, it's been beneficial because it is a little bit more reliably warm.
Though that might not continue. Climatologists predict the region will keep getting hotter with more extreme events that can seriously damage the grapes. Mark Bjornson remains optimistic there'll still be a viable wine industry making Pinot Noirs in 20 or 30 years. He says his investment is for the long haul, so
we're mitigating, regenerative farming, keeping a permanent cover crop, building the carbon in the soil.
In southern Oregon, where conditions are already as hot as parts of California and getting hotter, Greg Jones at Abasella Winery is diversifying.
We're growing Touriga Nacional, Tinta Cao, Tinta Amarela. Some of these Portuguese varieties perform exceptional in the hottest years where we are.
But there are big challenges to this strategy, too.
It's a long-lived crop. You plant a new vineyard today, you're wanting at least 50, 60, 70 years from it. The challenge is how variable the climate is today. How do you plan for something like that?
Right now, growers are getting ready for a more immediate threat. It's been a super warm winter. Mountain snowpack is near historic lows, so water shortages and wildfires may be in the cards again this year. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Yubico, makers of the YubiKey. Designed to stop phishing and AI-powered cyber attacks, the YubiKey protects the business applications that companies rely on every day. YubiKey, powerful protection, instant access. More at yubico.com. And by Odoo.com, offering integrated programs for sales, customer relationship management, inventory, and other business operations, designed to work together as a customizable software suite. Odoo, all your business on one platform.
This final note on the way out today, news from the betting markets, Kalshi and Polymarket by name. As Congress starts murmuring about how and whether to regulate them, the two are trying to get ahead of things. Kalshi says it's going to ban political candidates from trading on their own campaigns, and it is not going to let anyone involved in college or professional sports trade on contracts related to the sports they play or are employed by. Polymarket is going to do basically the same thing. Oh, and in other news, they weren't already doing this? Jordan Manji, Sunil Maharaj, Janet Wynn, Olga Oxman, and Virginia K. Smith are the digital team. I'm Kai Rizdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is 8 p.m.
WNYC receives support from